Lena was a first-year college student who had just joined the university hostel. She was happy to finally live on her own and start a new life. When she went to the hostel office, the warden gave her a room key and said softly, "You'll stay in room 33. Some students standing nearby looked at each other strangely. One of them whispered, "No one stays in that room for long." But Lena didn't believe in ghost stories. She just smiled and went to her new room. Room 33 was a little dusty, but it looked fine. She cleaned it, arranged her things, and went to sleep. Around midnight, she woke up because she heard light tapping on the wall. It sounded like someone knocking slowly, tap, tap, tap. She got scared, but told herself it was just the wind. The next night, the same sound came again. This time, it was louder. When she looked in the mirror, she saw fog-forming words that said, "Get out before midnight." Her heart started racing. She ran to the warden's room, but when they came back, the mirror was clean. The warden looked nervous, but said nothing. On the third night, Lena tried to stay awake. Around 1 a.m., the lights started flickering. She heard someone whisper her name again and again. When she turned around, she saw a pale girl standing near her bed, her eyes dark and her clothes wet like she had come out of water. Lena screamed and fainted. The next morning, the staff found her unconscious on the floor. She refused to stay another night and moved out the same day. After she left, another student moved into room 33. When she entered, she saw the mirror cracked and written inside the glass were the words, "She's next." It was late evening at Ridgewood College and most students had gone back to their dorms. But three friends, David, Nina, and Chris, were still in the library, finishing their assignments. As they walked toward the exit, they noticed a rusty metal door in the basement area that was always locked. A small sign above it said, "Restricted access. Do not enter." David, being the most curious one, said, "Let's see what's inside. Maybe it's just old books." Nina was scared, but Chris agreed. So, they came back later that night with flashlights and quietly opened the door after David picked the lock. The basement was cold and smelled like wet paper and dust. There were old shelves filled with torn books and broken furniture. As they looked around, Chris found a small leather journal lying on the floor. When he opened it, he saw it belonged to a student named Eleanor who went missing in 1975. The last page read, "I can hear the voices again. They whisper from the shelves. They want me to read." Suddenly, a soft whisper echoed through the dark room, "Read it aloud." Nina froze. David laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank. But then, all their flashlights flickered and turned off. In the darkness, they heard footsteps circling them, slow and heavy. Chris shouted for David, but his voice was lost in the dark. Then came a scream, short and sharp. When the lights came back, David was gone. Only his flashlight was lying near the journal, which now had new words written on the last page. "Don't wake it." The next morning, campus security found Nina and Chris unconscious near the locked door. David was never found. The library basement has been sealed again since that night, and no one dares to open it anymore. It was the beginning of the winter semester at Maplewood University. The psychology department announced that a new substitute professor, Dr. Hall, would be taking overnight classes for 2 weeks. He was an old man with silver hair, always wearing an old brown coat and carrying a briefcase that smelled faintly of smoke. The students liked him at first. He spoke softly, told strange stories about the mind, and often said, "The human soul never really dies." His lectures were unusual, but everyone listened carefully. After a few days, one student named Rachel started feeling uneasy. Every time she looked at Dr. Hall, she noticed he never blinked. He didn't even touch anything, not even his notebook. When class ended, she saw him vanish into the hallway without making a sound. That night, Rachel decided to search online for his name. To her shock, she found an old newspaper article, "Professor Albert Hall Dies in College Fire, 2001. She screamed in disbelief. The next morning, she showed it to her friends. They all went to the department office to ask about him. The head of the department looked confused and said, "We haven't hired any substitute." The night class is suspended this week. The students were stunned. They all swore they had attended Dr. Hall's classes for days. To prove it, they rushed to the classroom. The room was dark and cold, even though the heater was on. The blackboard still had words written on it in white chalk: "Class dismissed forever." Later, the security team checked the CCTV footage from those nights. What they saw made everyone silent. The students were sitting and talking to an empty classroom. There was no one standing at the front. From that day, no one entered room 14 after sunset. Those who once attended Dr. Hall's class said they still hear him whisper, "The soul never really dies." When Maya, a second-year student, moved into her new dorm room, she needed a study desk. The college store sold old furniture from the storage room, so she bought a used wooden desk that looked a little scratched but still strong. She carried it to her room, cleaned it, and placed it near the window. Everything seemed normal until that night. As Maya was studying, she opened one of the drawers and found a folded note inside. It was written in dark red ink, and the handwriting was shaky. The note said, "He is watching." She thought it was just a joke from a previous student and laughed it off. But the next night, strange things started happening. Around 2 a.m., the drawer began to slide open by itself. Maya froze. When she closed it, she heard a whisper, "Don't ignore me." She tried to sleep, but the sound of the drawer kept waking her up. The following evening, she found another note in the same drawer. This time it said, "Don't ignore me tonight." Her hands trembled. She decided to record everything with her phone camera before going to bed. When she checked the video the next morning, her heart nearly stopped. The footage showed a dark shadow sitting at the desk, moving its arm as if writing something. After a few seconds, the shadow turned toward the camera. Two glowing eyes stared directly into the lens and then disappeared. Terrified, Maya ran to the hostel office and demanded to move out. The warden didn't ask many questions. The desk was later sold again to another student. A week later, the new student opened the drawer and found a note written in the same red ink. It said only one line: "It's your turn." When Emma started her first semester at Hillside College, she was assigned a double room in the girls' hostel. Her roommate arrived late at night, a quiet girl named Clara. Clara barely spoke, always kept her head down, and cried softly almost every night. Emma often heard her whispering in her sleep, saying things like, "He's still here." At first, Emma thought Clara was just homesick or heartbroken. She tried to comfort her, but Clara never responded, just turned away and stared at the wall. Days passed, and Emma began to notice strange things. The mirror fogged up every morning with words that looked like fingerprints. Sometimes, her books fell from the shelf without any wind. One night, Emma woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of crying again. She looked at Clara's bed and saw her sitting upright, facing the corner, rocking slowly. Emma called her name, but Clara didn't move. When Emma turned on the light, the bed was empty, no one was there. The next morning, Emma went to the hostel office, scared and shaking. The warden looked confused and checked the records. Then she said something that froze Emma's blood: "You don't have any roommate. Clara isn't listed in this room." Emma refused to believe it. She took the warden back to her room, but all of Clara's clothes and belongings had vanished. Only an old photograph lay under the bed, a picture of a girl who looked exactly like Clara, with a date written below: "Died 5 years ago, room 29. That night, the crying started again. But this time, it came from inside the closet. Emma moved out the next morning and never came back. The new students who later stayed in room 29 still say they hear a girl crying at midnight, whispering, "He's still here." At Greendale College, there was a long, quiet path behind the campus that passed through the forest. Students called it the Forbidden Shortcut. It was faster than the main road, but everyone avoided it at night because strange things were said to happen there. One weekend, after a late party, 4 friends, Leo, Marcus, Ella, and Tina, decided to take the shortcut to reach the dorms quickly. The night was cold, and the wind was howling through the trees. As they walked, Leo noticed something half buried in the dirt, a small stone with a name carved on it. When he brushed off the dust, it revealed a grave marker with the words, "In memory of a student who never left." The others laughed nervously, thinking it was an old college prank. Leo took a selfie near the grave, saying, "Let's make this our ghost story." They all laughed and continued walking. When they reached the dorms, they checked their phones. The pictures they had taken showed something terrifying behind them. A fifth figure was standing. It looked like a student, pale, with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. None of them remembered seeing anyone there. That night, Leo's phone started turning on by itself, showing new pictures that he never took, photos of the same grave, but this time, each friend's face was fading. The next morning, Marcus didn't come to class. His bed was empty, and no one saw him again. A day later, Tina vanished too. Ella, trembling with fear, showed Leo another picture that had appeared on her phone. It showed the grave again, but now only two faces remained. A week later, the police found only one phone near the grave Leo's. The final photo on it showed the grave covered with 4 names. At Crestwood Girls' Hostel, students whispered about a creepy story connected to the old bathroom on the 3rd floor. Everyone said that if you looked into the big mirror there at 3 a.m., you could see the reflection of a dead girl standing beside you. Most people laughed at the story, until a new student named Sophie decided to test it herself. One night, her friends dared her to try the mirror challenge. "It's just a story," Sophie said, smiling. At exactly 3 a.m., she walked alone into the bathroom, holding a candle. The hallway was silent, and the air felt colder than usual. She stood in front of the mirror, stared at her reflection, and whispered softly, "Show me." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, the candle flame began to flicker. Sophie's reflection smiled, but she hadn't moved her lips. Her heart started racing. Slowly, another face began to appear in the mirror beside hers, a girl with long black hair, pale skin, and empty white eyes. Sophie screamed and dropped the candle. The light went out, and the bathroom went dark. Her friends waited outside, but she never came back out. In the morning, the hostel warden found the bathroom door locked from the inside. When they finally broke it open, there was no sign of Sophie, only the candle melted near the sink and the mirror covered with fresh handprints from the inside of the glass. After that night, the bathroom was sealed off, but girls who lived near it said they could still hear whispers and see fog-forming words on the mirror whenever they passed by. Some say if you go there at 3 a.m. and whisper, "Show me," you won't see your reflection anymore, you'll see hers. If you ever study late at night in your college, and hear a knock, a whisper, or see a shadow move, maybe it's not your mind playing tricks. Maybe it's one of them, still watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true horror stories. And remember, some stories never end, they just wait for the next student.